Welcome. Today we're going to set up the Jetson Orin Nano Super Developer Kit using NVIDIA's SDK Manager. Starting on the connector side of the board, we have the power connector, then we have the DisplayPort, 4 USB 3 connectors, an Ethernet connector, and a USB connector. On this side, we have the GPIO pins. And then on the back side, we have a connector and also the microSD slot. And then on this side, we have the 2 camera connectors. Now let's go to jetson-ai-lab.com. Okay, so we get our cookie comment here. I'm going to go ahead and click agree. Now select any tutorial. It doesn't matter which one. Let's go with text generation. Come up here to where it says Jetson setup guide. Okay, and then initial setup SDK manager method. Okay, so this is the method that we're doing. We're going to use the NVIDIA provided SDK manager. This is only valid on Ubuntu 20.04 or 22.04. So this is the alternative method for setting up the Orin Nano. It is much faster and easier. We will be installing the latest JetPack 6. I believe it's 6.2. And this can only be done with Ubuntu 20.04 or 22.04. You can use a microSD card. It says 64 gigabyte. I'm pretty sure someplace else I saw 256. What I recommend that you use is an NVMe SSD. Now I happen to use a 1 terabyte card. For flashing, you will need a USB-C plug for the Jetson. And then the other end depends upon your PC. And you also need a jumper pin. Now when we actually boot the system, which will come later after the flashing, you'll need some cabling. So the Orin Nano has a DisplayPort on it. So you will need a DisplayPort cable with the other end compatible to whatever monitor you're using. So if you're using a DisplayPort compatible monitor, you'll need a DisplayPort on both ends. My monitor is an HDMI compatible monitor. So I'm using a DisplayPort to HDMI cable. And then for both of those, you need a USB keyboard. I'm going to skip this advanced section here. We've already decided that we're going to use the SDK Manager. Now here's a flow chart of what's going to happen. We're going to install the SDK Manager. We will connect the target hardware both physically and via software. We'll select those software components, download the software onto the computer, flash it, boot the system, and go through initial setup. And then you can start developing with the latest JetPack. I'm going to drop down into my downloads directory. Now let's pop back to the instructions. I'm going to break these commands apart on purpose instead of copying all of them. Let's grab the first command. Copy. Paste. That's done. Let's now grab the second command. Now this is the reason why I broke the commands apart, because here it's going to ask for my password. Now let's grab the last two commands. Let's jump ahead to where this completes. And now we're finished. Let's go ahead and kick off the SDK Manager. Now I've already logged in before, so I'm going to take you back and show you what happens when you haven't logged in before. So let's cover using the SDK Manager for the first time. Okay, so it opens up, tick the checkbox for stay logged in, click the login button. Now at this point, somehow, some way, I used my Google login. I did not receive the security challenge. It then went ahead and signed me in, and then ultimately we get here. So what you're seeing is that it could not detect the board. That's because it's not connected. So let's go ahead and connect the board. Okay, I'm back. So you have to jumper pins 9 and 10. So pin 9 is a ground, and then pin 10 is the FC REC pin, which is force recovery. So let's go ahead and do that. Excuse me while I reach around here. Okay, so those are now jumpered. Let's take a look at it. So you have two pins that are not connected. In the instructions, they said you could use a paper clip. I don't really recommend it. So next we have to connect the USB-C. So there's that. Now I'll plug it into my laptop. I had to flip this cable over here so that I didn't have a twist. So now that's connected. Now let's pop back to our screen. It's still saying could not detect board. And that would be because I did not apply the power. So off screen, I'm connecting the power. The power light came on right next to the USB-C connector. Obviously, it spotted the board. I do not know the difference between these two. I always leave it with the first one. I'm assuming that the software is smart enough to know what to do. Click OK. And let's continue to step 2. Now here the instructions say to uncheck everything except for Jetson Linux. So let's go ahead and uncheck that. Let's uncheck that. Scroll down, nothing else is selected. So for the instructions, only select the Jetson Linux. Now it has filled in some names for directories here. I'm going to leave those as is. I'm going to click I accept. I'm going to change things around so you don't see my recording software. Okay, so now I'll go ahead and continue to step 3. I'll enter my password. It's going ahead and verifying the system readiness. Okay, that passed. Now, per the directions, we need to change this OEM config to runtime. So here you have the storage device selections. SD card is by default. You can use that. NVMe or even a USB drive. They have some custom options. I haven't been down that rabbit hole. I'm going to go ahead and select NVMe. As I said earlier, I have a 1 terabyte NVMe card, and we'll click flash. And then we're probably going to just jump ahead to where this completes. Let's come back when this is finished. This does take a while. Okay, we have successfully booted the system. Let's go ahead and accept the licenses. Click continue. Okay, I'm recording this in the United States. I'll click continue on English, but here's select your language here. Keyboard layout, English, US. I wish to connect to a Wi-Fi. Scroll all the way to the bottom. Enter the password. Let's enter the password. So it's now connecting. It must be connected now. Let's click continue. Okay, so I'm in the Chicago time zone. That would be the central time zone in the United States. Continue. Username, I'm going to do this backwards. That way I don't have to change the username. Password. Now I always select require my password. I've ran into problems where I needed to use software and I would just rather do it one time. Some people choose it. Some people choose login automatically, but I use require my password. Continue. I'm not going to install Chrome at this time. I'll do it later. And it's going ahead doing the system config, applying changes. And rebooting. A reason I suggest using the NVMe drive is that it's like 10 times faster. The splash screen. I want to skip this. Skip. I send in the system information to help out the developers. I leave the location services off for the purposes of this Orin Nano. And let's just skip this. And now we're done. It's all set up and ready to run. Smash the like and sub buttons and please share this video. My name's Bruce Ray Wilson and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.